The silent invasion, the morning sky over Sydney turned black without warning. Dr. Sarah Chen was sipping her coffee on the university balcony when the shadow fell across the harbor. She looked up and nearly dropped her mug. Massive ships hung in the air like dark clouds, their surfaces smooth and silver, reflecting nothing. All around the world, the same scene played out. In Tokyo, Mexico City, London, Cairo, and 100 other cities, the alien vessels appeared simultaneously. No sound accompanied their arrival, no dramatic entrance or thunderous roar. They simply materialized, as if they had always been there, waiting. Sarah's phone buzzed with emergency alerts, but she ignored them. Her trained eye studied the ship's design. They were beautiful in their simplicity, with clean lines that suggested advanced engineering. More importantly, they were positioned strategically over every major population center on Earth. In Mexico City, Marcus Rodriguez was welding steel beams on a construction site when the workers around him began pointing at the sky. The former military engineer set down his torch and calculated angles and positions in his head. The ships were too perfectly placed to be coincidental. This was planned, methodical, and incredibly sophisticated. Meanwhile, in a small communications lab in Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka was recording radio frequencies when her equipment started picking up new signals. Complex patterns of data flowed across her screens, mathematical sequences that were clearly artificial but unlike anything in human databases. She began analyzing the patterns immediately, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Aboard the flagship of the Kethmori fleet, Admiral Kethvar stood before a massive viewing screen showing Earth below. His tall, elegant form cast shadows across the bridge as his crew worked at their stations. The Kethmori had conquered 47 worlds in the past century, and each victory had followed the same pattern: arrival, demonstration of power, surrender, integration. "Status report," the Admiral commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless successful invasions. Scout Zeftal, the youngest officer on the bridge, consulted his instruments. "All ships in position, Admiral. Population centers are covered. We await your orders to begin the demonstration phase." Admiral Kethvar nodded approvingly. Earth would be conquest number 48, and based on their observations, it would be one of the easiest. The humans had only recently developed spaceflight, their technology was primitive, and their planet was divided into competing nations. A perfect target for the Empire. "Begin passive scanning," he ordered. "I want complete tactical data before we make contact." What the Admiral didn't realize was that Earth was already scanning back. In her Sydney lab, Dr. Sarah Chen had connected with colleagues around the globe. Using existing satellite networks and internet infrastructure, they had created an impromptu international research network within hours of the ship's arrival. Scientists in every major city were gathering data, sharing information, and building a comprehensive picture of the alien technology. "The energy signatures are incredible," reported Dr. James Wright from London. "But look at these gravitational readings. They're not using conventional propulsion." "Confirmed from our end," added Dr. Priya Sharma from New Delhi. "The ships are manipulating local spacetime. That's decades beyond our current physics, but the math is starting to make sense." Sarah smiled grimly as she compiled the data. Decades beyond their current physics, perhaps, but not beyond their understanding. Human scientists had been theorizing about these technologies for years. Now they had working examples to study. In Mexico City, Marcus Rodriguez was making calls of his own. His military background had taught him to think in terms of networks and redundancies. If this was an invasion, Earth needed coordination. Within 6 hours, he had established contact with former military personnel on every continent. They weren't planning to fight the aliens with conventional weapons. That would be suicide. Instead, they were preparing for something more subtle. Remember, Marcus told his growing network, "We watch, we learn, and we wait." These visitors chose to arrive peacefully. Let's see what they want before we decide what we need to do. The alien fleet waited for panic that never came. Traffic continued to flow in most cities. Stock markets fluctuated but didn't crash. People gathered in streets and on rooftops to look at the ships, but there was more curiosity than fear in their faces. Scout Zeftal found this deeply unsettling. "Admiral, the population is not responding according to our models. Where is the chaos? The mass hysteria? The desperate attempts at military response?" Admiral Kethvar frowned at his displays. Every previous conquest had begun with predictable panic. Governments would scramble, militaries would mobilize, and populations would flee or riot. Earth was doing none of these things. "Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand the threat," he suggested. "Continue monitoring. We'll proceed with first contact tomorrow as planned." But Yuki Tanaka in Tokyo was beginning to understand more than the aliens realized. She had been analyzing their communication signals for 18 hours straight, surviving on nothing but energy drinks and determination. The mathematical patterns were starting to resolve into something resembling language structure. "It's based on prime number sequences," she explained to her online collaborators. "But the emotional context comes from harmonic variations. I think I'm starting to understand their grammar." Around the world, other humans were making their own discoveries. In São Paulo, a team of engineers had calculated the power requirements for the alien ships and realized that their energy source was beyond anything in human technology. In Stockholm, linguists were working with Yuki's data to build translation protocols. In Cape Town, anthropologists were studying the ship's positioning patterns to understand alien psychology. Humanity was learning, and learning fast. The next morning, Admiral Kethvar activated the fleet's communication array, a message broadcast on all human frequencies, translated into every major language through their universal translation protocols. "People of Earth, we are the Kethmori Empire. Your world is now under our protection. Cease all military activities and prepare for integration into our civilization. Comply, and your transition will be peaceful. Resist, and face the consequences." The message was perfectly clear, perfectly translated, and perfectly threatening. It should have brought governments to their knees and populations to the edge of panic. Instead, something unexpected happened. In Sydney, Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her instruments and smiled. The aliens had just given her everything she needed to complete her analysis of their technology. The communication array's energy signature revealed the principles behind their faster-than-light systems. In Mexico City, Marcus Rodriguez received confirmation from his network. Every major world leader was still in communication. No one was panicking. Everyone was following the same plan: watch, learn, and prepare. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka cracked the final patterns in the alien language. She could now understand their internal communications, and what she heard made her laugh out loud. The aliens were confused, frustrated, and starting to argue among themselves about why Earth wasn't responding correctly. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. In Nawire, a small town in Vermont, 8-year-old Emma Patterson was sitting in her backyard, looking up at the alien ship hovering over nearby Burlington. Her tablet was connected to the internet, and she had been following the global response to the arrival. Emma had a gift for languages and had been watching Yuki's progress with fascination. When the alien ultimatum finished broadcasting, Emma did something that no one expected. She picked up her father's ham radio, adjusted it to the frequency the aliens had used, and began speaking in carefully pronounced Kethmori phrases that Yuki had just published online. "Hello, Sky people," she said in their own language. "My name is Emma. Why are you so scared?" Aboard the flagship, Scout Zeftal nearly fell from his station. A human child had just spoken perfect Kethmori and asked them why they were scared. Admiral Kethvar stared at the communication console in disbelief. "How is this possible? We only broadcast 30 minutes ago. Their linguists couldn't have decoded our language that quickly." "Sir," Zeftal said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our assumptions about this species." Around the world, other humans began picking up Emma's example. Within hours, alien communication frequencies were flooded with messages in broken but recognizable Kethmori. Children asking questions, scientists requesting exchanges of information, artists offering to share human music and poetry. The Kethmori had never encountered anything like it. Instead of surrender or resistance, they were facing curiosity. As the day wore on, the situation became more complex. Human governments issued statements that were neither surrender nor defiance, but requests for formal diplomatic contact. Human scientists began broadcasting their own discoveries about alien technology, asking for collaboration rather than demanding withdrawal. Most unsettling of all, humans began sending the aliens gifts. Radio stations broadcast music. Artists painted pictures of the alien ships integrated peacefully into Earth cityscapes. Poets composed verses in newly learned Kethmori language. Children sent drawings through email attachments addressed to the people in the skyships. Admiral Kethavar found himself facing a situation that none of his training had prepared him for. Earth was responding to conquest with friendship. "Sir," Scout Zeftel approached carefully, "I've been monitoring global communications. This species, they're not like the others. They're adapting to our presence rather than simply reacting to it." The Admiral stared at the planet below. 47 worlds had fallen to the Kethmori Empire. All had followed predictable patterns. Earth was writing a completely new script. In her Sydney lab, Dr. Sarah Chen was putting the finishing touches on humanity's real response. Working with scientists around the globe, she had spent the day not just analyzing alien technology, but improving on it. Human creativity, combined with alien principles, had produced something neither species could have achieved alone. In Mexico City, Marcus Rodriguez was coordinating a different kind of preparation. His network now included not just military personnel, but teachers, engineers, artists, and dreamers from every continent. They weren't preparing for war or surrender. They were preparing for something entirely new. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka had established two-way communication with several alien ships. What she learned changed everything. The Kethmori weren't evil conquerors. They were explorers who had convinced themselves that conquest was the only way to bring peace to the galaxy. They had been doing it for so long that they had forgotten there might be alternatives. As the first day of contact ended, both species found themselves in uncharted territory. The aliens had come expecting conquest but found invitation. The humans had faced invasion but chose curiosity. Neither side yet realized that they were about to discover something that would change the galaxy forever. Scout Zeftal stood alone, on the observation deck of his ship, looking down at the lights of Earth's cities. For the first time in his career, he found himself wondering if the Empire had been wrong about everything. Below him, 8-year-old Emma Patterson was falling asleep in her bed, her tablet still showing messages from alien children who had begun responding to her questions with questions of their own. The quiet planet had spoken, and the universe was listening. The Awakening Storm Admiral Kethvar called an emergency council session as the second day dawned over Earth. His senior officers gathered in the flagship's conference chamber, their expressions ranging from confusion to concern. The conquest of Earth was supposed to have been completed by now, but instead they found themselves in an unprecedented situation. "Report," the Admiral commanded, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Commander Veltar, head of intelligence, activated a holographic display showing global communication patterns. "Sir, human response patterns continue to deviate from all known models. Instead of capitulation or military mobilization, they appear to be studying us." "Studying us?" Admiral Kethvar's tone sharpened. "Explain." Scout Zeftal stepped forward, his datapad glowing with compiled information. "Admiral, in the past 24 hours, humans have reverse-engineered our basic communication protocols, identified the fundamental principles of our propulsion systems, and begun broadcasting their own technological innovations. They're not just learning from us. They're improving on our designs." The conference chamber fell silent. In the Empire's long history of conquest, no species had ever demonstrated such rapid technological adaptation. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen was addressing a hastily assembled international scientific conference via video link. Representatives from every major university and research institution were connected, sharing data in real time. "The implications are staggering," she explained, gesturing to complex equations floating on her holographic display. Their gravitational manipulation technology, combined with our quantum computing advances, could revolutionize space travel. But more importantly, their energy distribution systems could solve Earth's climate crisis within a decade. Dr. Priya Sharma from New Delhi raised a virtual hand. Sarah, we've been analyzing their ship construction patterns. The material science involved suggests they're using programmable matter. If we could adapt that technology to construction and manufacturing, we could end scarcity, finished Dr. James Wright from London. Not just for us, but potentially for their entire empire. Meanwhile, in Mexico City, Marcus Rodriguez was coordinating a very different kind of preparation. His global network had evolved beyond military planning into something that resembled a massive cultural exchange program. Remember, everyone, he said to his international team leaders, we're not preparing for war. We're preparing for the most important first impression in human history. These visitors have the power to destroy us, but they also have the potential to be our greatest allies. Maria Santos, his coordinator in Buenos Aires, spoke up. Marcus, we've got artists, musicians, and writers from 50 countries ready to participate. The cultural presentation packages are prepared in multiple languages, including the alien tongue that Yuki cracked. Excellent. And the technology demonstrations? Ready to go. Engineers in 12 countries have built working prototypes based on the alien principles we've observed. Nothing threatening, but impressive enough to show we're not the primitives they think we are. In Tokyo, Yuki Tanaka had achieved something remarkable. Not only had she mastered basic Kethmori communication, but she had established direct contact with several alien crew members, including Scout Zeftal himself. Your species confuses us, Zeftal admitted during one of their conversations. Every world we have encountered either submitted immediately or fought desperately. You do neither. Yuki smiled at her communication console. Maybe that's because we see a third option that the others missed. What option is that? Partnership. The word translated perfectly into Kethmori, but Scout Zeftal had to ask his computer to confirm the meaning. Partnership was not a concept the Empire typically considered with conquered species. You would partner with us? Even though we came to conquer your world? You came to conquer because you thought it was necessary, Yuki replied. But what if it's not? What if there's a better way? Aboard the flagship, this conversation was being monitored by Admiral Kethvar and his staff. The Admiral found himself grappling with concepts that challenged everything he had been taught about galactic civilization. Sir, Commander Veltar approached cautiously. We're receiving reports from other sectors of the fleet. Humans are attempting to establish communication with crews throughout our formation. They're not trying to gather intelligence for an attack. They're trying to make friends. Admiral Kethavar studied the tactical displays showing his fleet's positions. Each ship was reporting similar contacts, humans reaching out not with threats or pleas, but with gifts, questions, and invitations to exchange knowledge. How many species have we conquered, Commander? 47, sir. And how many have offered to teach us their music? Commander Veltar paused. None, sir. The crisis moment came when humanity unveiled its coordinated response. At precisely noon, Greenwich Mean Time, every major city on Earth participated in what they called the Global Welcome. It began with Dr. Sarah Chen's team broadcasting their technological improvements to the alien fleet, not as threats, but as gifts, enhanced versions of Kethemori designs that were more efficient, more elegant, and more sustainable than the originals. Simultaneously, Marcus Rodriguez's network activated cultural exchange protocols. Music, art, literature, and poetry from every human culture began broadcasting to the alien ships in carefully translated Kethmori. The message was clear. This is who we are. This is what we can offer. This is what we can build together. But the moment that changed everything came from the most unexpected source. Emma Patterson, the 8-year-old girl from Vermont who had first spoken to the aliens, had been corresponding with a young Kethmori named Ziskatal, Scout Zeftal's younger sibling, who worked in the fleet's cultural analysis division. Their friendship had blossomed over shared curiosity and a complete lack of fear on both sides. When the global welcome began, Emma asked Zizkatal a simple question. What do your people dream about? The question was broadcast to the entire fleet, and the response was unprecedented. For the first time in their history, Kethmori crew members began sharing personal thoughts, hopes, and dreams with members of a species they had come to conquer. Zizkatal's answer started a revolution. We dream of a galaxy where we don't have to conquer anyone anymore, where we can explore and learn and make friends instead of subjects. Aboard the flagship, Admiral Kethvar watched in amazement as his disciplined crew began engaging in unauthorized cultural exchanges with humans. His officers were sharing poetry, his engineers were collaborating on technical problems, and his scouts were asking humans to teach them about Earth's music. The Empire's perfect military machine was dissolving into something it had never been before. A community of individuals discovering that they had more in common with their supposed enemies than they had ever imagined with their own leadership. Scout Zeftal approached the Admiral with a formal request that changed the course of galactic history. Sir, I request permission to propose a new protocol for this contact. What kind of protocol, Scout? Alliance, sir. Not conquest. Not submission, true partnership. Admiral Kethvar looked at his young officer, then at his crew, then at the planet below where humans were broadcasting invitations to join them in building a better future for both species. Scout, in 47 conquests, no species has ever offered us anything but resistance or surrender. These humans are offering us something we've never had. What's that, sir? Choice. The Admiral's decision was unprecedented in Kethmori history. Instead of proceeding with conquest, he ordered the fleet to accept humanity's invitation for formal diplomatic contact. The response from the Kethmori Empire's Central Command was swift and harsh. Admiral Kethvar was relieved of duty, and a new fleet was dispatched to complete Earth's conquest and punish the rebellious admiral. But by then, it was too late. The alliance between humans and the Kethmori First Fleet had produced technological and cultural advances that neither species could have achieved alone. Human creativity combined with Kethmori engineering resulted in breakthrough technologies that solved problems both civilizations had struggled with for centuries. More importantly, the partnership had proven that conquest was not necessary for galactic peace. Other species, observing the unprecedented cooperation between humans and Kethmori, began questioning the Empire's methods and offering their own alternatives. When the second Kethmori fleet arrived to complete Earth's conquest, they found not a defeated world, but a thriving alliance that had already spread to a dozen other systems. The quiet planet had become the center of a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Alliance, stood before the United Nations and delivered humanity's message to the universe. We were told that conquest was the price of peace, that strength came from dominance, and that different species could never truly cooperate. Today we prove that all of those assumptions were wrong. The galaxy is large enough for all of us to flourish together. In the former flagship of Admiral Kethvar's fleet, now serving as the headquarters of the Human Kethmori Alliance, Scout Zeftal worked alongside Yuki Tanaka on translation protocols for the dozens of species that were joining their coalition. Marcus Rodriguez had evolved from resistance coordinator to the Alliance's first director of interspecies relations, managing cultural exchange programs across multiple worlds. And in a small town in Vermont, Emma Patterson continued her correspondence with Zizkatal, now friends across the stars, planning their first in-person meeting at the Alliance's new academy, where young beings from different species would learn together. The aliens had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found something that changed the galaxy forever, proof that the universe was big enough for everyone to be friends. The quiet planet had spoken, and its message echoed across the stars. There is always another way. Admiral Kethvar, now serving as the Alliance's military advisor, often stood on the observation deck, looking at Earth's blue marble surface. He had conquered 47 worlds in the name of peace, but it took losing one conquest to discover what peace actually meant. Humanity had not fought back with weapons or surrender. They had fought back with something far more powerful: hope for a better future and the courage to build it together. The invasion was over. The alliance had begun. And across the galaxy, other quiet planets began to find their voices.